right? Right now, we're going to go through something else. I'm going to tell you how to differentiate the difference between good pain and bad pain, and then I'm going to give you a few rules on how to work out when you know that it's good pain, right? So if you have a pen, it's going to be helpful. I'm going to ask you to write down a couple definitions. If you can find space on your trigger point board, right? I know that there's not a lot of space on there. I promise the definitions aren't that long and the words aren't that complicated, right? How many people in here have gotten a massage? Cool, great. Everybody who has pain, perfect, right? Right? When you went to get your massage and the massage therapist hit that one spot and you went, ooh, right? And they asked you to stop, what did you say? No, that's a good pain. I like that. That's going to make it feel better, right? Right? What about the first time you ever stubbed your toe? Not a good pain. You thought you lost that toe. That thing is gone. I'm now got 9 digits on my feet. That's it, right? No more pinky toe, right? The difference between good and bad pain is a decision. We're going to get into it a little bit. The first word I want you guys to write down is insult. Insult, yeah, like I called you a name. Insult, right? Insult is defined as the subconscious intake of stimulus. Subconscious intake of stimulus. The world is full of things that our eyeballs can't see, right? We got Wi-Fi signals, there's atoms, there's smoke, there's smog, there's just the atmosphere, and it's bombarding our body nonstop. Our clothes, the bench you're sitting on, the floor, your shoes, your socks. Those are all insulting your body right now, right? Until I pointed it out, you had no idea. You weren't aware of it. It was subconsciously insulting your body. So when we talk about stimulus or stress or capacity, those things are always happening and building against your capacity. So when Beth talks about us just sitting at our desk for 8 hours, the seat is insulting your body. Your posture is insulting your spine, right? All of those things are acting on one another subconsciously. The moment I said it, the moment I said, hey, you're sitting on that bench or you're wearing shoes, right? You started to feel it and you shifted in your seat a little bit. You were like, I'm only on my right cheek. Let me go on my left cheek, right? You shifted a little bit. That's irritation. Irritation is the conscious intake of stimulus. So we've got insult and now we've got irritation. Normally when we talk about irritation, it's negative, right? Tommy's irritating me, right? He's talking too much. He's all the time irritating me. But what it is we're just aware of something happening to us. We're aware of some kind of stimulus. You were aware of shifting in your seat. You became aware that you were wearing clothes. You became aware that your shoes are too tight, right? How do we know when we become aware of something whether or not it's good? Is there a way? Anybody? I'm actually asking. This is not rhetorical. You can improve it. Take the hand away. Exactly. The one thing that we learned, though, is even when you shifted in your seat, is you adapted, right? To a more comfortable position. You moved your shirt when it was choking you. You loosened up your shoes. You moved your hand away. With irritation comes adaptation, right? You don't need to write down adaptation, but you can, right? When this comes to exercise or working out, we as professionals, we try to dose irritation, right? So you come in and you do a back squat and you start feeling something in your knee. How do you know if that's a good pain or a bad pain? You go out for a run and your legs start to burn. You know if that's a good pain or a bad pain. You know it's irritation. You know it's not super comfortable. But you know that some of these things are going to propel you towards your goal, right? You're doing bicep curls like Beth was talking about earlier, concentric and eccentric contraction, we're calling it back, right? You feel that burn in your muscle. You don't stop because you know that that burn means that you're working and that when you stop, your body's going to start to repair. And next time you come and do bicep curls, you're going to get the 10s instead of the 2.5s because you're going to have an adaptation from it. I just said 2.5. You can laugh at 2.5. That's what I use, guys. Come on. Why are you laughing at me, right? So you've got your adaptation, right? You've got your irritation, but you're working out and irritation crosses into pain. How do you think we describe pain? How do you think we define it? It's a negative emotional response to the irritation that gets worse with uncertainty, right? You guys have all gotten paper cuts. You remember your first ever paper cut? No, because now you get a paper cut, you go, that sucks, but you're fine. It hurts for like a second, and then it stops. You ever seen a kid skin their knee for the first time? They think they're going to die. They're like, oh, it's falling off. Oh, I can't do it, right? You skin your knee now, you're like, I'll be all right. The pain for them is worse because they're uncertain of what's going to happen next, right? Same thing happens when we start having pains in our neck and our back. There's uncertainty around it. It may only be a 2 out of 10 if we knew what was going on, if we knew the referrals, if we knew the trigger points. But the moment we don't know what's going on and we can't solve it, the uncertainty makes that pain go up. It becomes a 5, a 6, a 7, an 8, to the point where we're not doing the things we like to do. We're holding ourselves back. We're not going kayaking. We're not walking. We're not running. We're not working out, right? So pain is that emotional response to the irritation. The moment you decide to stop is an injury, right? Just because something happens doesn't mean you're injured. You could keep going through pain, right? The moment you decide to stop, it's an injury. Just like that massage therapist rubbing on you and it hurts and you say, no, don't stop. They're not injuring you. They may be causing you pain. You don't really like that sensation, that irritation, but you're not injured because of pain. When you tell them to stop, right? Or you're doing a back squat and you make a face and you stand up and you grab your back and coach comes over, hey, do you want to do another set? No? Cool. You just decided that you are injured. The coach didn't decide that. Nobody else can decide that for you. You decided that you were injured, right? Does that all make sense so far? Cool. Does anybody have any questions on what I've said so far? All right, cool. So when it comes to injuries, one thing that drives me nuts is someone comes in and they're like, I can't do that, I got a bad shoulder. All right, cool. Or I got a bad knee. Well, this is a better example. I got a bad knee. I'm like, cool, how'd you walk through that door? Your knee worked, right? You can walk. You don't have a knee injury. You got a squatting injury maybe, or a lunging injury, right? This changes the way that we talk about ourselves. That self-dialogue, that internal dialogue where we're telling ourselves that we have a bad this, that's manifesting in our head over and over that we're lesser than, that we're inadequate, it's a whole other discussion that we're not going to get into. If you'd like to get into it, Coach Katie's great at walking people through it. Much better than I am, right? I use very small words. She's very smart. But you don't have a knee injury. You have a squatting injury. So you just can't do squats yet. So what? We got a million other things that you can do, right? You can still run. You can still jump. You can still live life. But when you start defining yourself as a bad knee or a bad this, or I hurt this whole joint, as long as you still have that joint and it has some kind of range of motion, it's not completely gone, right? So I want you guys to start thinking about that as we go into the next part. Cool? So we've got our 4 definitions, right? Insult, subconscious intake of stimulus. Things are happening to you all around. Atoms, Wi-Fi, 5G, right? Somebody yelling at you from across the distance. It's all happening, right? Irritation. Now you're aware of that stimulus. Whether that's pain in your muscles, whether that's sitting on your chair, whether that's gripping your steering wheel, whatever it is, you're aware of it. Pain, the emotional response, the negative emotional response to that stimulus that gets worse with uncertainty. And then finally, injury is the decision to stop doing whatever you're doing. Everybody with me? Cool. We're going to go over 4 rules about pain that we use here in the gym, right? Number 1 rule, if pain remains a 4 out of 10 or less, or when you start working out, you start moving, it's a 4 out of 10 or less, keep going. Why might that be? Why might we choose a 4 out of 10 of your pain? Remember our definitions. Because it's not an injury. Great. What else? What happens when we have irritation? What does it lead to? Adaptation. Perfect. Right? So that 4 out of 10 is an absorbable irritant, right? You can take that in, and then your body's going to do what? Adapt, exactly. It's going to adapt. It's going to overcome, and it's going to become stronger because of it. When you have a pain, you have a breakdown, you have something, you have to go through some kind of rehab normally, right? Has anybody ever had surgery where they had something repaired and they had to go to PT? Right? All the athletes in the room went, yeah, I tore my rotator cuff because I was dumb when I was young, right? Perfect. So you had to go through some kind of mild discomfort, right? If it's a 4 out of 10, keep going. Rule number 2, right? If it starts to get better or stays the same as you go, keep going. So imagine you're going for a run. You start running, your ankle, let's call it your ankle, hurts, but it's a 4 out of 10. With every step, it stays the same, and then you get about, 2 blocks in, it starts to get better. Keep going. The irritation that you're providing is making your pain less, which means that your body is adapting in order to heal said pain. Everybody still with me? Cool. If the pain gets worse as you go along, stop. If the pain's above a 5 out of 10, stop. If you start at a 2 and it goes to a 3 and it goes to a 4, stop. Because that's showing us that it's going to start going to a 5, a 6, a 7, and an 8, and we're moving in the wrong direction. Right? Rule number 3, if you stop whatever you're doing and it stops hurting, right? So it didn't get better, it stayed the same. But the moment you stop doing whatever you're doing, it stops also, you're fine. We haven't caused any additional trauma to whatever your pain is, right? The irritation that you just provided to said pain didn't make anything worse. If you've ever torn a muscle, pulled a muscle, something like that, you know that as soon as you stop, it still hurts. It doesn't stop because you stopped. So you've done some kind of damage. You've done some kind of tissue damage to your body, right? Rule number 4, if in 24 to 48 hours, you cannot take your finger and point to where it hurts exactly, right? You didn't do any additional damage, right? If the next day you come in, you're like, it's really sore in this area and my hip always kind of hurts. That's probably just general soreness, most likely. You would have to talk to somebody a little bit more detailed about it. But rule of thumb would be if you can't take your finger and go, it hurts right there, and that's where it hurts all the time, right? Then you probably haven't done any additional damage. If you take those definitions and you start talking to yourself in a more positive way, instead of, I'm broken, my knee is bad, right? I can't do this because, like, okay, you can't do this yet, right? I'm just getting, oh yeah, ooh. Don't get me started. Tommy, that's a whole nother talk. We can't do that one right now. These people will be here all day if I get to do that talk, right? I'm getting old. That's my, if you ever, those of you who have been in my class and given me that excuse, you know the look I gave you. I'm sorry. I apologize all the time. And then you take these 4 rules while you're working out, while you're exercising. It stays a 4 out of 10. It gets better, it stays the same as you work out, right? It doesn't, what was the third one? Help me, someone who I just taught it to. Help me.
If it doesn't get worse.
If it doesn't get worse, right? If you stop doing it, there you go. If you stop doing it, there you go. Let's look at you guys learning, taking your notes. If you stop doing it and it stops, great. And if in 24 to 48 hours you can't pick a focal point of the pain, you're probably fine. These things are the rules of pain that we use for our one-on-ones. These are the rules of pain that I tell everybody that I work with. These are the rules of pain that have kept me out of pain for the last 2 or 3 years when I had a low back and hip issue, which we kind of discussed last week a little bit, right? When I exceeded my capacity. The way that I built it back was by following these 4 rules. Now I don't have back pain. Now I'm fitter than I've ever been. Now I feel great. And now I have a baby that I can keep up with, which is more important to me than actually working out, right? Our priorities change as life goes on. What I want you guys to do is take this particular speech, this particular talk today, and I want you to kind of assess what you're telling yourself about your pain, right? You don't have to do it right now. You don't have to like meditate and like cry to me or anything. Like, it's fine. I get it. There's tears later. But do it at home. Do it the next time you come into the gym and that movement that you don't really like comes up, right? And when your coach says, why? You're like, oh, I have a pressing injury. I don't have a shoulder injury. I have a pressing injury. I can't do strict press because I have a pressing injury. And then we can dive deeper into what that is. And as coaches and as professionals, we can help you out. But if you don't let us in, we can't help you out, right? Guys, do you have any questions on anything I just said? Yeah? I appreciate that. That means a lot to me. She said, for the camera, she said, this has been great. Okay? She doesn't have a mic. I have a mic, so when I watch this video back, I'm like, what did she say? When people ask me questions. That concludes the workshop, the speeches, the education part. You guys were all great, right? Before I let you guys walk anywhere, do you have any questions on anything? Anything at all you think would be valuable for the whole class?